Hey there, welcome to my channel. Today we going back to a time when the Earth's average temperature was anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees Celsius lower than today. That might not seem like much, but combined with falling sea levels and altered weather patterns, life on Earth was dramatically different. So let's say you wake up tomorrow and the world's been hit with a reverse climate change button. What would you do? Could you survive? Let's take a look. So let's just assume that you're in North America. The good news, at least for you, is that the contiguous United States actually sees pretty mild temperatures most of the year, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The coldest temperature ever recorded in the lower 48 states was minus 55 degrees Fahrenheit in January of 1977 in the small town of Wise, Virginia. On the flip side, the hottest temperature ever recorded in the US was a sweltering 134 degrees Fahrenheit, which was recorded multiple times in Death Valley, California. And while those numbers aren't anything compared to the real ice age, it's still worth pointing out that if the temperature goes down 10 degrees or so, you're not likely to end up frozen solid unless you leave your house. But what about everywhere else? The Arctic Circle today is basically uninhabitable. So yeah, if you were to wake up and suddenly find yourself facing an ice age, you're definitely not moving there anytime soon. In fact, the entire northern tier of states would become inhospitable to humans who are unaccustomed to surviving in such low temperatures. Alaska, for example, has already seen temperatures drop to minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And even somewhere like Minnesota sees daily lows of around 20 degrees Fahrenheit. But wait a second. Aren't we currently experiencing global warming? Wouldn't that mean that a sudden drop in global temperatures would be unlikely? Well, yes, that's true. But unlike movies about global cooling, which are a thing, turning back the clock on global warming isn't necessarily going to put us in the ice age. However, there are parts of the world that are experiencing rapid cooling, including places like Greenland and Antarctica. Not to mention that the next volcanic eruption to occur could bring enough ash and smoke into the atmosphere to block sunlight and trigger an ice age. And according to some scientists, we're already overdue for a natural ice age. Okay, so let's say you've decided to stay inside your home as the temperature slowly drops over the course of a few weeks or months. You've boarded up your windows, you've got plenty of non-perishable food stored up, and you're even prepared to handle a few power outages. How long could you really go on like this? After all, the Ice Age lasted for about 2 million years. So eventually you're going to need to venture outside again, and that's when things start getting complicated. You're going to need to eat. You're also going to need to drink. And you're probably going to need to use the restroom too. It's not like you can use your indoor plumbing for any of those things. With the power out, the water's probably not going to be running. So how are you going to cook, clean, hydrate, sanitize? But maybe you're resourceful. Maybe you're good at figuring things out. Maybe you're a Boy Scout. But ultimately, you're going to have to leave your home at some point. And the minute you step outside, you're risking exposure to the elements, which could potentially cause frostbite, hypothermia, and a host of other health complications that won't be easily treated. Also, if you thought traffic was bad now, just wait until you try to drive on roads covered in several feet of ice and snow. Speaking of snow, once it starts accumulating, it's going to quickly pile up, and at some point, you're going to have to clear it away. Depending on where you live, you could be dealing with upwards of several feet of snow per year. And if you live in a city or a suburb, you might actually be fined if you don't clear the sidewalk in front of your house. Alright, now let us take a break from the practical concerns and talk about the more existential threats you'll be facing. Let's face it, the Ice Age was a pretty rough time for most of the world's species. It's estimated that around 3% of all mammals that have ever lived went extinct during the Ice Age. And another 30% disappeared during the period of global warming that followed it. As for humans, our ancestors managed to survive, but only thanks to their ability to adapt and innovate. The development of new tools, clothing, shelter, and social structures helped our ancestors survive some of the harshest conditions in Earth's history, but just barely. So could you survive the same way they did? If you found yourself transported back to the Ice Age, you'd probably fare better than most. Thanks to modern conveniences like automobiles, airplanes, and smartphones, you've probably developed a sense of entitlement that would quickly evaporate. Once you're stuck in a snowdrift with a broken boot and nothing but wilderness surrounding you, the reality of your situation will set in fast. Fortunately, you're a resourceful type, so you'll do what you need to do to survive. But your survival will depend on more than just your resourcefulness. You'll need to be physically fit and mentally tough too. Imagine waking up every morning before sunrise to track down food, and then spending all day gathering supplies or hunting for game. After that, you'll come back to your makeshift shelter, only to have to spend the evening sharpening tools, sewing clothes, and preparing for whatever the next day brings. And don't forget that if you're a city slicker, you might not have any idea how to do any of those things. Now imagine that your group is constantly being stalked by predators. You don't know if they're male or female, if they're hungry or just curious. All you know is that you need to protect yourself and your loved ones. And it's not just wild animals you need to worry about. Humans are capable of some truly horrifying acts, and if you find yourself in a desperate situation, you might just find out how far you're willing to go. As you navigate the challenges of the Ice Age, you'll be forced to confront the harsh realities of survival. You'll have to learn how to properly prepare and cook food. ULL need to master the art of fire making, and ULL have to learn how to defend yourself against both human and animal threats. Along the way, you'll forge alliances with other survivors, but you'll also encounter danger and betrayal. The constant threat of death will always be looming over you. Will you be able to endure the physical and psychological toll of living in such a hostile environment? Or will you succumb to the unforgiving conditions of the Ice Age? After a few months or even a year or two, you'd probably be worn out. All the fighting, the stress, the hunger, the exhaustion, it would eventually catch up to you. But let's be real, you probably won't make it that far. At some point, you're going to do something stupid. Maybe you'll ignore advice from people who actually know what they're doing. Maybe you'll panic and run into the blizzard, or maybe you'll walk outside with wet socks and shoes. Whatever happens, you're going to die. But hey, at least you've died trying, right? Some people would thrive in the Ice Age. People with certain genetic traits that give them advantages in cold environments, people who are physically fit and emotionally resilient, people who are knowledgeable about plants, animals, and survival techniques. You need to be ready to work constantly to harvest food and resources, to craft tools and weapons, and to defend yourself and your loved ones. You must also be prepared to cope with the isolation, the loneliness, and the fear that come with living in a hostile world. It's a test of human endurance, ingenuity, and adaptability. Only those who are physically and mentally prepared can hope to survive. So if you're ready to face the ultimate challenge, go ahead, step into the Ice Age. Just don't expect to come back.